welcome to the B Team Podcast. I am your host, Josh Safran, with my co-host,
At Mars,
and our permanent guest,
Rob Nelson.
We're here every week to talk to you about all things Bentonville, bourbon, and business. The B Team Podcast. Be here. Welcome to the B Team Podcast, Bourbon Edition. I'm your host, Josh Safran, and my co-host,
Matt Mars.
I like how I threw the Bourbon Edition.
I did.
This is like the Monday just bourbon.
I think I think you're trying to emphasize Bourbon Edition because you didn't set up the person that was supposed to be here right now.
Well, that's a whole other. We won't even get to that today because that's just going to drag us down backwards. But we get a lot of good feedback, Russ. Always welcome. We get a lot of good feedback. I'm pulling out 7 to 10 minutes of bourbon content specifically on a Monday.
Yeah,
when you have the OG here,
we've heard a bunch. I think. Well, what I think it really is they like Russ and not us so much.
They tolerate us. They like Russ.
Yes, we're the gateway to Russ.
If someone likes me, that's very impressive. They don't like you two fine gentlemen.
Well, it's more me. They all love Matt. Like the 60 to 80-year-old women demographic that watches HGTV, they all fall in love with Matt.
Oh, we saw that in Kentucky.
We did.
Yeah. Yes,
Yep.
Instantly. I mean, they did not care that we were at Four Roses going through a tasting, and it was Rob's fault.
No, it was actually Brewer's fault.
Was it Brewer's fault?
Hey, you guys are from Bentonville. Oh, my God. Do you know the Mars family from the Fixer to Fabulous show? And Brewer goes, yeah, they're in the back. Shout out to Brewer.
Okay, so that's right. And then, but I think Rob tried to be coy about it. He just wanted to be lay low.
Well, so did
They were
Matt.
attracted, but also you were like, honey,
Yeah, but remember, then we went to Heaven Hill, and the lady recognized him as well. Mac was sweet. I'm going to get a Heaven Hill 18. And she's like, no, but I'll take a picture with you. Which I thought was hysterical.
Yeah,
But it's great to be here with you two fine gentlemen.
It's been
it's good to see you're the bionic man. You're out doing things you can't even tell.
I am 2% on my knee from being back to totally straight. 2%. And that is, the doctor says that the last 2% of range of motion is the most difficult, but I'm going through it every day, and I'm not limping. You notice when I walk in, I'm not limping.
Yeah.
That is 2% away from being totally straight also. So, I mean, it's perfect.
I mean, it's when we get to our age, we'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
what we can get.
Boy, this is gonna line up the screen.
What are we drinking today, boys?
So we're drinking Penelope Bourbon, and it's a new wheated that they came out with. It's a 4-grain, and before we started the cameras, Russ asked Josh and I what the 4 grains were. I have no idea.
Did we get
Josh
to one?
may.
Wheat?
Well,
Barley?
I think there's at least wheat, and there's
We've talked about this before.
Okay, go ahead.
Primary grains that go into whiskey in America. Malted barley. You have to malt the barley. Check that the enzymes start to break down during fermentation. And then you've got corn, obviously. And we've got
That's the sweetness.
We got rye. And then we had the wheat. So wheat, rye, and barley, there's no such thing as fructose or syrup for those 3 cereal grains because they're very bone dry in comparison to corn, which we all know corn is that sweet driver because you got corn fructose and corn syrup. So this is a nice balance. This is the first time I've had this. I saw this the other day on the shelf. I go, I need to get some.
Now, what's the retail price? Because when Matt buys and brings something in, I always think it's in like the $30 and $40 range.
I believe you probably buy this.
I think it's like mid 40s, like 42 or 44.
I've seen it in Texas from 45 to 55. I saw it in Memphis a couple weeks ago, right around in that ballpark.
So you notice how I knew that? Because if Rob would have brought it, it would have been like in $200 range. But Matt's saying...
But I do have a question for you, Russ.
Yes.
So do all bourbons have the 4 grains?
No. So this is a wheat.
Question.
So the primary driver grain on this is the wheat, along with the corn. But when you see Maker's Mark, Maker's Mark, they don't promote themselves as a wheated bourbon, but they are a wheated bourbon because they don't have rye in the mash bill. They have wheat and the malted barley and the corn. Weller, like we were just talking about Weller off camera, the same thing. There's no rye in Weller, the original bourbon. And then his sister, his cousin, Pappy, same thing. So when you very rarely see, if you
Is that because they're you rarely see it because it's either a rye or it's not a rye, like it's a bourbon or a rye?
this is very temperamental. to blend.
Okay, because like I know E.H. Taylor has a special edition 4-grain that you rarely see.
I know how much that is on the secondary market.
1,000 plus, no?
$525. I priced it the other day.
$525.
It's come down.
Yeah, that used to be a lot higher.
Well, remember before the pandemic, and then in the last 10 years, secondary market prices have accelerated. But because of the downturn on things right now, we're seeing it slide down. Again,
$525. That's incredibly low.
So now, do they make it every year? Because I think I have like a 16 and a 17 or something. Is all I
you have one.
You're going to be
yeah.
It's limited release, and when I pick up the 4-grain in Texas in a couple of weeks, I will let you know what year.
Okay.
So it feels like he should have brought in that one as well too, so we could do a 4-grain side by side. I mean, that would have been nice.
Well, and that was my question, because they actually, it's crazy that they stated wheated bigger than the 4-grain.
Yeah.
Is it just because 4-grain's more of an unknown and they
don't want to confuse? Okay, this goes back to marketing and sales and helping the distillery sell as much as they can from these products. They're putting wheated on here for a reason, and I firmly believe, without knowing the marketing team, that they're trying to go after Weller, because Weller's not on the shelf as much as you've seen.
Yeah.
And then Maker's Mark doesn't present themselves as a wheated, even though they are. So they're going after a consumer that they're not trying to confuse.
Okay.
And again, if you look at all the Penelope on the shelf, everything they have now, nice bookends now, 4 or 5 or 6 on the shelf at any given time, all the labels are different just because of that. And this is just on the nose without...
This is tasty.
This is crazy.
Good.
It's 93 proof. I get that dryness. I get a little bit of the sweetness of the corn, the spiciness of the rye, but I really like the aromatics of the wheat just on the nose.
You get any cracked vanilla in there?
No, a little sugar plum and maybe a little bit of apple pie.
It's really smooth too. Like it's an easy drink.
This is incredible. I saw this the other day. I bought some Havana Penelope, and I bought some Rio Penelope.
So you saw this in Northwest Arkansas?
So I saw the Rio.
I saw it in Texas and in Memphis when I was there a couple of weeks ago.
Did you try the Rio yet?
Yes, it's incredible. I dropped that into a lineup. In fact, I'm doing a whiskey dinner here in a couple months, and the menu was sent to me today. And they have Rio and I put Rio in there, with the big meat portion of the menu. It's going to be perfect because of that Brazilian oak influence. That Brazilian oak is just striking. It's very aromatic. It really punches you in the mouth, but that's really stands up to food.
Does it share on here the percent rye and the percent breakout? Do they list that out? Because I'm not a rye fan. I'm tasting a little bit of the rye, but it's not overwhelming.
It's soft on the rye. They don't have it on here. But to your point, there's not as much rye. Because again, when you think about this, when you see wheated, and that's kind of your driver, that's your statement, that's what you're trying to tell the customers, that you have more wheat in here than anything else, so it's a wheated bourbon. That means they need to soften up the tone of the spiciness and the earthiness and the complexity of the rye. Because the rye can attack that and overwhelm all the other grains if you don't balance it out. And I think this is a perfect balance. I tell you what, drinking this for the first time, again,
I haven't seen you be this excited about something new in a long time.
I mean, this is exceptional.
It's a sleeper. Like, you don't realize for $45. Yeah. I have bottles that I paid, I don't want to say it in front of Carrie, but a lot, and this towers over them.
I would have loved to have tasted the E.H. Taylor 4-grain side by side with this.
Yeah, I mean, well, Russ is going to have one in a few weeks, he said.
That's for a client.
You see how he just kicked that over to you?
But I tell you what, there are other 4-grains out there. We can go around the region here and find some. I'll do. How about if I just do a little research and find it, and we'll do a 4-grain? Because again, I did bring back from my storage unit the bottles and bond for our bottles and bond challenge.
We're going to do that one.
Yeah.
I do have one. I don't know if we should be talking about it now, but
yes.
Have you heard of the Buff Turkey bottles?
No.
Like Buffalo Trace barreled some stuff for Wild Turkey, and it's like 16 to 17 year bourbons.
You have one?
And I have one of them.
Where did you secure that?
So they, for some reason, Buffalo Trace sold the bottles and didn't barrel them. And they just sold them to some smaller boutique bourbon companies.
You didn't answer his question.
A friend of mine, he's like has been researching it and found, but he has. I'll show you some of the labels
Because
afterwards.
there's been all that horse trading, through the years, and by the way, because BT and WT, they're right next to each other, basically outside of Frankfurt.
Yeah,
so they're right there. So they're kissing cousins.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get over this. If I was blinding this, I know you don't see me get this excited.
No,
and I'm not jaded, as you know.
It's better without water. It's better without.
I like it with the water.
If I was judging this in the competition,
I'm gonna have
I'd give this
another nipper.
This is a solid gold medal on a blind taste.
That's big for you.
It is.
There's nothing really that I don't like. I like higher proof, but just to drink, hey, you don't have to put ice. You don't have to do anything with this, and it's amazing.
Well, thank you, man.
This is a pleasant surprise.
Look at you.
I know.
Like a kid in a candy store. You're like the kid with the Christmas tree waiting for his presents on it.
I know. Is this your first drink in 6 months?
Yeah.
It's like we're the gateway to get him back in. He's like, well, you're going to have to put this into your lineup.
Well, also, I just took some sinus infection medicine.
So I could be explaining a lot of things right now.
So if it's not good tomorrow, just take a little of that medicine and then drink.
Okay.
Matthew, thanks for bringing us in.
Thanks for this pleasant surprise. It's a good way to start off the late afternoon.
Well, and I, not being snooty, but you know how we all are, to be fair. You go into a liquor store, you browse the aisle, and you look for the few unicorns, and you walk right past this stuff.
Yeah. All right, can I tell you a story on that?
Okay.
So last week, case in point, this is a perfect segue. I'm in Austin last week doing an event, and one of the attendees who's been to several of my events with his doctor, I had Russell's Reserve in the lineup, 10-year, and he kind of looked at me like he was, Russell's Reserve. He didn't know it was Wild Turkey, but he goes, I've walked by that brand at a liquor store 100 times and never picked it up because I thought it looked cheap. Okay, but he of the 8 whiskeys in the lineup that day, he thought that was the favorite one of the 8. He goes, and I said, this is the thing about my journeys that I go to take people on, and that new discovery that we've always done. This was a new discovery for him. And then I said, then now you're going, well, what took me so long? He goes, yeah. What took me so long? But now that was his favorite. He goes, he's a big bourbon enthusiast. He goes, for a $40 bottle of bourbon, he goes, that could be my best economy brand that I've had in recent memory, and I'm a fan. Mm-hmm. Again, what took you so long?
Yeah.
That new discovery.
Well, people are again, they're drinking what everybody tells them to drink, what everybody thinks is cool, what's allocated, what you can't find. And to your point, you're walking past a lot of good stuff. My intro, the first one I ever tasted that I liked was the TX. The TX blended whiskey that was my intro. Like, oh, this is kind of good. Mm-hmm. And my son, who's not quite 21, but he wants to sample bourbon, asked me what he's struggling with. Try that one if you want to try something, because just because it's not allocated doesn't mean it's not good. And I think people get lost in that. We have unfortunately, through social media and different whiskey clubs and social media posts on whiskey clubs, the snobbery was way up there a couple of years ago, but it's toned down. Yeah, because now people can't get what they've been waiting to get, their favorites, and it's still not available. So they have to look for options, and these are great options as we wait for our favorite Buffalo Trace to come out, or our very rare Wild Turkeys, or as we saw when we were in Kentucky in September, our favorite new Heaven Hill. We have to, and then again, the other new discovery that we all found out at Jim Beam, Granddad 16. Yeah, I dropped that into a lineup a couple weeks ago for a corporate client, and they go, just poo-pooed it because it had old Granddad, and then they go, what? This is old Granddad? And I said, yeah, it's part of Jim Beam. Again, it just blew their mind because again, you started
soften that jaded tones on people, and they start looking outside that box.
When you bring up Jim Beam, though, I can't let you forgive you for
The bunghole situation.
Yeah.
Listen, I flamed out.
As soon as you said that, I knew you were teeing up for now. I was like, oh, I'm ready.
I wasn't going to say
Oh, you knew I was going there.
Boy, I flamed on that, but then I struck out. That's
You were on a bad knee. You're on a bad knee.
I'm not going to blame it on that.
I'm going to blame it for you.
Okay, thank you. I take ownership.
See, this is Jim Beam, you and I feeling right over here. I like you on this side of the table. Cheers. Thank you, Matthew. Good job.
Good job, Matt. Nice seeing you guys.
You too.